everybody, welcome back to the She Shed. Today's tutorial is going to be making this beautiful off the shoulder shawl with these gorgeous buttons. Very simple to make. You can even make it in a day if you sat down and didn't stop. It is straight double crochet, sorry, half double crochet with bordering and whatever stitch you would like, but I'll show you what I used to do to make this. What you will need for this project is the yarn, which I am using Sari yarn from Lincraft. I did get this online. I don't know whether it is available in store, but I'm sure you can do both and see, but yes, online is where I got it. It is a wool blend, and as you can see, it is 22% wool, 30% polyamide, and 48% whatever that is. They are making some interesting yarns now. It says a 5mm hook. I generally go up a size, so I'm going to be using a 6mm hook. It is 165 meters. I will be using 5 balls for this shawl, 500 gram balls they are. You will also need your hook, which I am using my Furls 6mm hook, or it is a J. Scissors, yarn needle, row counter if you want to count your rows, a couple of stitch markers so you can mark out where your buttonholes are going to go, and of course the all-important buttons. These buttons I found at Spotlight many years ago. I do not know if they still sell them, and I, for the life of me, can't remember the exact cost, but they were not cheap. So you've got the buttons. It comes 4. I used 2 for this shawl, and I will be using the remainder 2 for this shawl that we're making today. Alright, let's get this project started. Okay, to start off with, you will need to do a slip knot, and you will need to chain as many stitches that is comfortable to go around your shoulders and down your arm a little bit. So depending on your size, depends on how big that shawl is going to be around your shoulders and down your arm slightly. We will be working in the length. So as you can see, it can't fit in the camera there, but this is doubled up. So I'm working backwards and forwards in the length, and then when we make it up, we fold it in half. So we're making it long ways. And for me, that was 160 stitches, and I am a larger person, size 14 Australian. So I am going to do 160 stitches in my chain. If you would like to follow along with me and do the exact same amount, please do so. Otherwise, adjust the chain to fit comfortably around your shoulders and down your arm slightly, or as long as you would like it to fall down your arm. Alright, chain your amount of stitches that you require, and for this I'm going to do 160. So if you are following along with me, I will meet you back here after you have done your 160 stitches. After completing your chain 1, and we will be working in the back of the stitch. So you can see the front has a V. Hopefully you can. It is a bit of a fluffy yarn, and then the back has a lump. We're going to be working in that lump. So that chain 1 you just did, miss that one and go into the next stitch into the back of that lump there. So we're going to do half double crochet throughout this whole body of the shawl. So yarn over, go into the lump there, grab your yarn, pull it through, and grab your yarn and pull through the 3 on the hook. Alright, again, yarn over into the next lump, or loop, or whatever you want to call it. Grab your yarn, pull it through, and grab your yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. So this is probably the trickiest part of the whole shawl. Work your way down in each stitch, creating a half double crochet in the back of each stitch on your chain, and I will meet you back here when you have finished that. When you have put a stitch in every one of your chains, so you should have 160 stitches if you are following along with me. At the end of the row, chain 1, turn your work, and we're going to be doing this half double crochet in every stitch all the way along. So just continuing your half double crochet every stitch. And how many rows? Well, I used 4 balls of yarn. So once I used up the 4 balls of yarn, then my 5th ball I did all the decorative work. So continue doing this until you've used up your 4 balls of yarn. I will meet you back here at the end of your 4th ball and show you how we do the borders, how we make the buttonholes, how we sew on the buttons, and finish it up. Alright, so finished my 4 balls of yarn, and I have a little bit left over. I could have continued on and then attached my 5th ball, but I'd actually like to have more on the borders. You'll see what I mean when we get there. Now, before you go any further, it's hard for me to show you this on camera, so I've already done this. Wrap the shawl that you've done so far around you. Now, make sure you're standing up, maybe in front of a mirror, and see where it looks good on your shoulders as you're wrapping it around. And then when you're comfortable with that, at the first point just at your shoulders, put a stitch marker. And you can see I've put one here. That is where my first buttonhole is going to go. So I've put my stitch marker through both sides, so I can see that that's where I'm going to attach my button. And then for the second one, go from the end. Here's a cool little trick for you. Go to the end of your shawl where you put the first stitch marker, close your eyes and bring your fingers together, and that will bring you to the middle right there, and put your other stitch marker. It will not fail you. You will always find the center. So put your once again, put your 2 fingers, one at the first stitch marker you put in, the other at the end of your shawl. Close your eyes, bring your fingers together, and it will always take you to the center. And you can see I've done it several times, and I come straight back to the stitch marker. Place a stitch marker there, and therefore you have your 2 buttons where they're going to go. So now that you've done that, you can now start doing the border, the edging. So what we are going to do now is put buttonholes in at the same time as doing our edging. So the top edging, so I'm doing the top first, and the top edging is going to be 2 rows of double crochet. Now the first row is going to have the buttonholes put in it, and the second row is going to have just plain double crochet. So chain 1, turn your work, start again, chain 2 because you're doing double crochet. Turn your work, yarn over, go into that first stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn, pull through the first 2 on your hook, and grab your yarn and pull through the next 2 on your hook. So again, yarn over, into that next stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn, pull through the first 2 on your hook, grab your yarn, pull through the next 2. And you will continue until you get to that first stitch marker. Okay, I'm going to stop at the stitch at that stitch marker. I'm going to chain 2, and then where the stitch marker is, I'm going to skip over that, skip over the next stitch, and then I'm going to put my double crochet in the next stitch, so the 3rd stitch along. So again, I've skipped over where the stitch marker is, I've skipped the next stitch, and I've put a half double crochet in the next stitch. That is my buttonhole. Now I'm going to check that my button will actually fit through that. Now you would have seen at the beginning of the video that my buttons were these big round fancy buttons. Unfortunately, I can't use them anymore. My red shawl has now been sold, and the lady wanted another one in the dark grey, which I will be doing, so she wants those buttons. So instead, I'm going to be using my handmade buttons that I make from my eucalyptus tree. And they're nice and big, so let's see, will that fit through there? Oh, maybe I might need to do another one. I think I need to do another stitch. So this is why we check. Let's get that tighter. Okay, let me try and check and do a 3rd stitch. So if you need to make it bigger, then chain an extra loop. So now that's 3 chains. I now have to go 3 stitches up, 1, 2, 3, and put my stitch in my 4th stitch along. Now let's check again with my button and put that through. Oh, that's much better. Yeah, and get my other one. Yeah. Now you don't want it too loose because you don't want it as it's worn to be able to come through. So you need to just play with it to make sure. Now that's going to sit like that, so that's not going to come through. I'm going to sew it on so it sits nicely, and then I need to, that's great. Okay, cool. All right, so now that I've worked that out, and so for me it was 3 chains over my 3 missed stitches. I hope that makes sense. So check your button into that hole and then do the corresponding amount of stitches in your chain and miss the corresponding stitches down below. Hope that makes sense. And then continue doing your double crochet to your next stitch marker, and at your next stitch marker repeat that process. So chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, then I'm missing 3 stitches, so 1, 2, 3, and put my double crochet in that, and then you just double crochet all the way to the end of your row. And as you can see, I've got my 2 buttonholes. When you get to your stitch marker towards the end of your row, remove your stitch marker, do your stitch, and put your stitch marker back on that stitch, so you know where to put your buttons when you're sewing them on later. And then just continue doing the same thing with your other buttonhole stitch marker, and continue to the end of the row. At the end of the row, chain 2, turn your work. And continue doing your double crochet until you get to the chain of the buttonhole. When you get to your buttonhole chain, go to the chain, and can you see how if you remember how we started off, the chain has the V on the top and the lump on the bottom. Just to make it nice and neat, if you can put your double crochet into the loop on the bottom, that bump, just like you did when you started the project. Now if you're finding that a little bit too difficult, just go straight into the V on the top, but I find it makes it much neater to, and it's just me being anal. There we go, and there's the last one. So 3 chain means 3 stitches. There we go. And then just continue doing your half double crochets to the next buttonhole and repeat the process. Okay, so at the next buttonhole, once again, remember to turn it upside down and find your loop. Two, remember, if you find this too tedious, just go straight into the top and then continue to the end. And there you can see your 2 buttonholes are now done. Okay, at the end of that row, we have finished the top of our shawl, and you can cut the yarn off, bring the yarn through by just bringing it through. Now you can sew that off now if you like, weave it in, or do it at the end of the project. Generally I do it as I go so I don't miss any. But let's go to the bottom end now. And if you're wondering why I have a heap of stitch markers in my work, I do so many projects all at the same time that I sometimes forget my hook size. So I put in the amount of stitch markers to match my hook. So I'm using a 6 hook, therefore 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitch markers. And when I pick it up again, I can go, oh, what was the hook I was using? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a size 6. That's just a little trick that I use so that I don't forget, because it has happened. Alright, so I'm going to remove these and let's start. Start of the next row, attach your yarn. And chain 3, because now we are going to do a triple crochet. And this is where it can be a little bit tricky, and to just have that really nice look, and you'll see what I mean when you start doing your stitches, don't go into that little bit there. You know, when you do your normal stitch, you go into the bottom. There's the bottom of the stitch, there's the top. Skip that and go into the hole. Now to do a triple, wrap the yarn twice around your hook, go into that hole, grab your yarn through, put your yarn through the first 2 on your hook, wrap your yarn, put it through the next 2 on your hook, and then through the last 2. Wrap your yarn twice, go into that hole, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn, pull through the first 2 on your hook, grab your yarn, pull through the next 2, grab your yarn, pull through the last 2. Wrap your hook twice, go into the hole, grab your yarn, pull it through, 1, 2, 3. Wrap twice, into the hole, grab your yarn, pull it through, 1, 2, 3. Wrap twice, into the hole, 1, 2, 3. Do one more, and then 1, 2, 3, and you'll see what I mean by the look. See that? And that will help make that a very pretty edge to your shawl. Now how many rows we're going to get, I'm not sure, because it depends on your tension and also how much yarn you have left. So Here's my ball of yarn. I'm going to do as many of these triple crochet rounds, and I'm guessing about 3 rows I will get. If I have any left over, I will think about if I've got enough that maybe I might do a single crochet edge along here. But I'm not too fussed if I don't do it, because I actually think that's quite neat. But if you want the triangle edge like we have at the bottom and the top of your work along here, then leave enough yarn so you can do an edge along there. But I will see how far I get to see whether I will do that. Alright, so keep doing your triple crochets all the way along for as many rows as you can get out of your ball of yarn, and I will meet you back here, let you know how many rows I get, and we'll see how we go with whether we'll do an edging or not. Just remember, when you come to the end of your row, chain 3, turn your work, and start your stitches in the top of each one of your previous stitch. So remember to do your triple crochet in the top of the previous stitch. Okay, if there is no reason why you can't go into that hole under there, but I'm going to do mine in the top of the stitch there. There we go, and you can see. Alright, continue on until you finish your ball. Well, close to the end of your ball. Okay, so I didn't quite have enough to do a 4th row, but you can see I did 3 rows there. And I personally think the 3 rows is just enough. I think that's perfect. I don't think it needs another row. But obviously if you have more yarn and you can do a 4th row and you want to do a 4th row, go and do a 4th row. I like my edging. I'm not going to put an edge along there, but I want to show you still how to do that if you would like to do that on your shawl. Do remember that just because I show you how to do these doesn't mean that you can't change it up and make it into your own thing. So if you don't like the gappy look on the triple crochet, do a double crochet border. If you've seen my tutorial where I use the double crochet herringbone stitch, do that. You can change that up to be whatever you like. If you don't want a border at all, just keep going with your half double crochets. It's purely up to you how you want to do it. But if you would like to do your single crochet edge, just chain 1 and bring your work to the side. So we haven't ended off or anything at the end of that row. We're just continuing on with our yarn, and what I would look at is doing 3 stitches on your triple crochet edge there. So it is a single crochet, so just try and get your hook into the side. Now this is where it gets a bit tricky. Grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn, pull through the 2. Do that same again. Grab a yarn, pull it through, grab a yarn, pull through the 2. And if you can do a 3rd one, grab a yarn, whoop, I did, into there, grab a yarn, pull it through, grab a yarn, pull through. Alright, and then I'd go into that gap there, and then 3 stitches there. Now, you can see what it's doing along there, and you can see that it's creating an edge. Now you can continue along there, and then when you get to this bit here, what you would just do, let me just, is go into every single row. Like that. So just going into every row and placing your stitches along evenly, and it just neatens up the edge. So it's up to you whether you would like to do that or not. And if you do want to do that, then do it on both sides so they match. Okay, let's sew the buttons on and let's see how they look. Alright, to sew the buttons on, now it doesn't matter which side you sew it on, just remember that it's going to be that shoulder that it's going over. So what you want to do is line your two sides together, folding it in half, lining the two sides, and you'll see that the stitch marker lines up to the edge of your buttonhole. So I need to sew a stitch over. Can you see that? So there's my buttonhole there, it's at the edge of it, and I want to sew my button onto here, that middle one. So grab yourself a piece of yarn, a long piece of yarn, get yourself a yarn needle. Now there's two ways you could do this. If you've got a yarn needle that has a big enough hole in the eye, and you can thread both your ends of yarn through, do that, and therefore you will have to sew as many times. And then I'm going to catch the other stitch so that I have more to sew onto. Grab my button, work out which side I like the most. I like that side the most. So, and how's it going to sit? How is it going to look? Do I want it like that or like that? I want it like that. I quite like that. Okay, so put the thread through. I'm going to catch the other side. Now I can remove my stitch marker. And that loop I've created, I'm going to go straight through there, and that knots it off. And therefore I don't need to have a knot. And then just going backwards and forwards until I can't get the yarn in anymore, which will probably be another one. And then I just sew it in the back. And put my yarn through the loop. Can do that again. And cut it off. And there is one button. And just repeat that process for the next one. Here we are, our finished shawl. Now, as I cannot fit it all in the camera, here are some photos of it being worn on my mannequin. Well, that brings us to the end of this tutorial. I hope you have enjoyed making your shawl. If you do have any comments or any suggestions, please drop me a comment down below. I hope you've enjoyed coming along on this journey with me to make this beautiful shawl. Very comfy, gorgeous material used, but of course you can use any yarn that you like. Just obviously match your hook with your yarn. If you have any photos, I'd love to see them. You can always drop me a line on Instagram at lucky_platypus1. You can find me at www.luckyplatypus.com.au or just make a comment below. Love to hear what you have done, and as I said, any suggestions would be fantastic. Have a great day, everybody, and hopefully I'll see you again at the She Shed very soon. Bye, everyone!